My name is Cich. I'm co-founder and president of Sunderstorm, which is a top California brand, and particularly known for our flagship product, Kana Gummies, which are found throughout California. I'm joined today by my business partner and longtime friend, Cameron Clarke. Would you like to give some background on yourself, Cameron, and kind of what you're doing in the cannabis industry right now?
Absolutely. Thanks, Keith. Yeah, so my background is really as a serial entrepreneur. I've started a number of different types of companies, including a CPG company about 20 years ago. So I stumbled into the cannabis industry, about 5 or 6 years ago when I was doing some algae research in my molecular biolab in San Diego. And I realized that similar technologies were being used in the cannabis industry as the molecular bio industry. So, as you recall, Keith, I gave you a call and said, you know what, we've been big supporters of plant medicines for years. So why are we not in the cannabis industry? We have a lot of great industry experience, technical business experience. And, I knew that we could help transition this industry from, a dark and hidden industry to a fully regulated CPG market. So I think we've done a pretty good job.
Good. Well, let's put those 5 years of experience to use here as we ask some questions. So let's go back to the beginning of COVID-19. It was in March when it became pretty clear that the governor of California was going to announce a statewide quarantine. And there was a run, stockpiling of cannabis products, lines around the block at various retailers around California. I call that period, weed is the new toilet paper. And that really started out, the whole response to COVID. And then, of course, it turned out that cannabis was termed an essential business, which really made cannabis a legitimate industry in the eyes of state and local governments and reinforced public support for legalization. And, and basically since that time, we've seen the sales rate, even today for cannabis products, up over 30% from last year. So Cameron, in your experience with Sunderstorm, how has COVID changed consumer behavior with regard to cannabis and cannabis products?
Yeah, I think it was a pivotal moment for all of us in the industry. It was a little bit of a scary time for anyone in business. In the middle of March, there was a lot of uncertainty. We didn't know if our businesses were going to be allowed to stay open. We didn't know what the impact of COVID would be. And I remember that when push came down to shove, and the state allowed cannabis to be an essential business and allowed the shops to stay open so they could provide this incredible medicine to those in need. It was a wonderful moment for all of us because it basically proved that cannabis was an important medical product for so many people, right? And in fact, there was an incredible amount of hoarding of cannabis products. We at the company did more in 2 weeks of business than we did in our first year and a half in business. It was really incredible for us. But when we look back and think why, what happened, what was that transition? There was incredible anxiety from all of us, right? And I know that had a lot of friends and a lot of others that couldn't sleep. People were nervous, and, cannabis is a wonderful medicine to be able to calm anxiety, calm nerves, as well as allow people to improve their sleep. And so there were certainly a lot of people that needed it for those conditions. And I think that also there was a realization that, people need to be conscious of their health and safety, and they wanted to move towards products that were safer and were tested and were known to be safe, and they could have a reliable experience with. No one wanted to have products or take products that were unknown at a time when you have a massive unknown with this virus, right? So I think there was just this transition within the cannabis world for folks to be able to make sure that they had the products to help them with these conditions. And I think even more importantly, there was this infiltration of new consumers into the industry that maybe were thinking about trying cannabis, but were a little bit nervous before. And COVID was really just a tipping point for them to come in and actually try these new products, see if they would work. Maybe they started with a CBD heavy product and then they transitioned to a little more THC or more THC. But I think that element of those new consumers coming in and adopting cannabis, I think was is an important element that helped drive the industry forward. And I think also there were probably a number of consumers that were in the illicit market that weren't so concerned about the quality of the products before COVID. But when COVID hit, they realized, hey, maybe my health and safety are more important than I was thinking, and I'd rather go pay a few more bucks in the licensed industry and get the products that I know are going to work, because my anxiety is critical right now and I need to be able to sleep.
Yep. I think it's also interesting how people consume cannabis have changed during COVID as well. Because COVID is a respiratory illness, like you talked about. I think people have somewhat shied away from smoking it and have really looked at other forms, such as edibles and gummies, tinctures, et cetera. So I think it's given kind of a strong demand for those other products that are consumed orally. Also, I think a big issue is discretion. As a parent, and I've talked to a lot of other parents, when you have particularly small kids around and you still want to consume cannabis, the smell is pretty strong if you're lighting up a joint. So I think people have looked at, for discretion, edibles and other products as well that allow you to consume cannabis while having kids running around and not really kind of noticing. And my theory is happy parents make happy kids. And now let's talk a little bit more about, new entrants into the marketplace. And I've heard from many different people, oh yeah, I smoked weed when I was in college or high school, but because it had such a strong social stigma that they didn't consume weed for the last 20 years. And now they're coming back to it with fresh eyes for really the first time in their adult life. And so I think the ability to walk into a legal dispensary where there is this incredible array of different products, hundreds and sometimes even, many hundreds of different choices. And then we have very informed bud tenders at these retailers that can sit down and talk with a patient coming in for the first time and guide them in the right direction. So why do you think new entrants that are coming in after not having smoked for decades would choose a legal shop over an illegal shop?
Yeah, that's what I was, was alluding to. It's a game changer. I mean, people want to feel comfortable that they're buying a product that they know what it is, that it's reliable. Testing is one of the most important things that is required as part of this new regulated market. When we started the business back in 2015, you didn't know what you were consuming. And I think still in the illicit market, you still don't know what you're consuming. And we tested a variety of products. We tested different types of competitor products. We tested our own products. And, what we found was that there was just an incredible amount of mislabeling on all these products. And you could get, a gummy that would have, 2 milligrams in it that said that it had 20 milligrams in it, or said it had 10 milligrams, or it had 30 milligrams in it. People have realized during COVID, it's just been an eye-opener for them to think, oh my gosh, this is true medicine. It is an essential business. The government has stated that it's an essential business. And you know what? If I'm going to go and buy this, I'm going to buy a product that I know what's in it, that I can see the test reports, that I know the government is helping me understand that it's safe, and that it's dosed properly, right? That I could have the same experience today that I had with something that I consumed 3 weeks ago. So that I think what we found was there was just a realization during COVID that that this was what was happening in the cannabis industry. And I think, pre-COVID, we're all busy with our lives. We're running around. We're doing all kinds of things. Some of our friends are consuming or smoking, and sometimes they're offering to us. But maybe we really didn't adopt it. Maybe we weren't so concerned about sleep. Maybe we were busy doing other things. But when COVID happened, all of a sudden it's front and center. It's like, oh gosh, my health and safety is crucially important right now. So if there's no better time than the present than to get this medicine and give it a shot, because we all know that marketing happens through word of mouth, and I think there was an incredible amount of chatter and word of mouth going on about the power of this plant to be able to heal and calm nerves.
To preserve our sanity in this crazy world of 2020. Let's talk about two words spoken by Kamala Harris in the VP debate: decriminalize marijuana. And how does this impact the illicit and the licensed market? So as a finance guy, I'll talk a little bit about some of the implications for capital markets and what that means for the difference between the illicit and the legal market. What's going to happen is there'll be many steps on a path to full legalization, states' right, safe banking. As we make these incremental steps, it is going to incredibly accelerate the legal market legitimacy in the eyes of the public across the nation. And that is going to drive people, I think, into the legal shops more and more. So we're on a progressive trend, kind of a tsunami that's really coming in the direction of the cannabis market. So, one of the implications that if there is a Democratic victory on the presidential level, potentially a Democratic Senate, no one knows for sure, that basically the capital markets will begin, as they already have, just on her two words alone this week. Cannabis stocks are up, anywhere 10 to 15% for many companies. So there has been a lack of capital coming into the cannabis market for the last year. Cannabis stocks were definitely beaten down from where they were before. And it's made it difficult for legitimate cannabis companies to have reasonable access to capital. And with reasonable access to capital, we have the ability to do research, to make better products that have better efficacy, and in that direction. So, Cameron, what would you see being different in the industry from your perspective with this path towards legalization?
Yeah, well, I think this is also a really important issue, and I was very excited to hear Senator Harris mention this at the debate. Decriminalization will free tens of thousands of incarcerated individuals, and to be honest, expunge records of tens of thousands of more folks who have been incorrectly incarcerated for a plant medicine that helps millions of people. This is something that's going to be very powerful for our community. One thing at Sunderstorm that we talk about a lot is, as one of our 3 pillars of quality is, improving the quality of our community, right? And this plant medicine has the power to heal. It's a social lubricant, but it's also a healing plant for a community. It helps get people together. It helps them eliminate some of the tension and anxieties between different points of view. And I think by decriminalizing this, we're gonna help lower some of the tension that exists in the United States today. And I think there's no better way to start the process of healing these communities of color than by decriminalizing cannabis, getting these folks out of prison, expunging their records, and giving them a chance to build new lives and begin the process of healing their communities. So I think this is a wonderful step in the right direction and has a lot of potential to improve the culture in our the tension and the culture in our country right now. I have a question for you. What do you think about what do you think this means for valuations and for how companies will be evaluated in the future if this happens?
Yeah. clearly it's going to be a great benefit to valuations. Just having access to capital alone is going to allow companies to actually invest in themselves. And I think that's something that's been challenging really this past year. And, every time that the legal market invests in new products and technology, there becomes this quality differential between the illicit market and the legal market. And so I think what we're going to see over time is access to capital, the ability to have better products, better quality products is going to really drive a wedge between those two segments. And clearly, if you're an illegal operator, you're never going to have a chance to sell your business. You really need to be in the legal market to, build a company that's going to have standing value, and really have longevity with the consumer, packaged good industry, down the road. So I think it's going to be great for all the different companies in the industry along the entire food chain, and it's super exciting.
Yeah, and I would add to that. I think there's, one of the things that I'm excited about is, luring the consumers who consume in the illicit market, luring them even further into the licensed shops. I think that's something which has been slow to come to fruition. It's very easy to, buy your products from a shop that's been around for 7 or 8 years, and you don't seem to really care much that they haven't gone through the licensing process, and that they that they're not doing things by the book. But I think that's changing, and I think that once these consumers walk into a licensed shop and they see that there's not a lot of bars and scary guards that are asking a lot of questions, that it's a much more friendly environment, like shopping at your local pharmacy, and seeing that there is, as you mentioned earlier, just a wide variety of products. I mean, this is one of the most exciting things about this industry, is that when you look at it from 30 years ago, the different types of products that are available. You have the tinctures and sublinguals and oral sprays, and you've got a wide variety of edibles. You've got vapes and a whole spectrum of flower. You've got CBD, high CBD products. 1-to-1 CBD THC products. You got CBN. You got all kinds of new things that really allow the consumer to find the products that are right for them. And there's one thing we learned, certainly between you and I, is that cannabis is personal, right? It affects our bodies very, very differently. And so, we're on the path of really trying to dive into that and try to understand how these products actually work specifically for an individual. And I think having that variety and these consumers coming from the illicit market and seeing all this variety in these shops will keep them shopping in these regulated and licensed shops once they feel that once they understand that the benefits of that.
One last kind of topic before we close up is we have 4 states across the country that are having a vote next month on adult use. That's New Jersey and the very critical, New York area, Arizona, South Dakota, and Montana. And so, when we think about the shift from the illegal market to the licensed market, you really have to think about states that don't have any kind of legal cannabis industry today going from 0 to 100 miles an hour with adult use. I've heard statistics say that New York is going to be the largest consumer market for cannabis in the world. And the day that people can walk into something that looks like an Apple store and have the same diversity of products that you can find in California, that will be a day when you'll definitely have the scales tipped significantly in favor of the legal market. So what are your thoughts on how this sweeps across the nation?
Yeah, I think we're already seeing it. I think this is something that's been in the works for quite some time. Each state, starting with Colorado with its legalization of rec, and then Oregon and Washington and California. We saw the first steps, the first forays into what a regulated, legalized market could look like, right? And I think it's been proven. We see that businesses and providers in these markets can deliver incredibly valuable products to the consumers. And I think other states who have been a little slow to adopt it are now seeing this, and they're coming on board as well. So, interestingly enough, I think what's also happening is that there is some of the larger brands on the West Coast, I think, are starting to begin their own, if you want to call it MSO strategy, right? There's a shift from SSO, single state operators, to multi-state operators, and there are brands that are beginning to open up in these other states with the momentum that they have in the Western United States. And so I think we will see a lot more of that. And consumers that are in new states, or in states that have already opened up but perhaps don't have a lot of variety, a state like Massachusetts, for example, are going to see lots of this variety and diversity of products come into their shops. And I think that there is a lot of excitement that I personally have seen in these markets for these West Coast brands and to come into these states. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And I think it's just the waterfall effect, right? It started with a trickle, and now it's flowing pretty nicely. And the more states that come on board, you're going to see this waterfall flow, and you're going to see, the consumers throughout the country are going to have this great diversity of cannabis products available to them every single day, so that they can integrate them into their day-to-day life. And I think that's one of the most important things about this plant medicine, is that you can use it when you need it, but there's nothing wrong with integrating it into your day-to-day life, whether it's for sleep, or whether it's as a social lubricant with your peers, or whether it's for healing some serious medical condition. We all want to live a life of optimal wellness, and cannabis is a great way to get to a life of optimal wellness.
That sounds like a great place to stop. Thank you, my buddy Cameron, and we appreciate the opportunity to be with you here today. Thanks.
Thank you, Keith.